Life can be incredibly strange. 50 years ago, I went to a high school play in Pittsburgh. I don't recall what it was about or even its title. The only thing I do remember is the mesmerizing teenage actress who starred in it. We met briefly, and that was it until yesterday.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maida Milone, and I have curated this exhibition called The Portrait of the Artist and Other Things here at Gross McCleaf Gallery.
Maida, I love the notion of an outside curator putting together a show at a commercial gallery. How did you come up with the idea for this?
For a long time, I wanted to do an exhibition about self-portraiture because I constantly seeing selfies and thinking about how people portray themselves. But at the same time, I find myself spending most of my time in museums looking at artists' self-portraits. I'm always taken by them. So I started thinking about what is the role of self-portraiture now in light of this proliferation of selfies. So I thought I would really love to ask a group of artists who work in different media to create self-portraits and pair their self-portrait with another piece of their work that would resonate with it, help give it context, and to be asking themselves, what can I create to help the world understand me, my art, what's going on in the world now? So that was really the genesis of the exhibition.
Why don't you introduce the artists, and I'll share a bit from each one's written statement.
16 fabulous people are in the show. Katie Baldwin.
In 2021, quilter Katie Baldwin was a Fulbright scholar in Taiwan. She photographed herself in public restrooms in Taipei. Her quilt is a representation of the wetlands along the Tamsui River.
Jill Bell.
Jill wrote, "Nowhere does it say a self-portrait needs to represent the person you currently are. I'm presenting these two pieces as self-portraits, as melodramatic as they are, because they reflect the person I was and still am occasionally. For some time, I lived with depression and anxiety. Creating art gave me purpose. It was how I made sense of and tried to communicate what I was feeling."
Don Camp.
Photographer Donald Camp juxtaposes a photograph of a child, not unlike his youthful self, with the iconic image of three young civil rights workers, Andrew Goodman, James Chaney, and Michael Schwerner, who were brutally murdered in 1964 by the KKK in Mississippi. The pain in this presentation is palpable.
Vincent Desiderio.
In this early and somewhat ominous painting of men around a bathtub, Vincent Desiderio, one of America's greatest living artists, paints himself as the man in the brown shirt. His companion piece is a lithograph that he made in the 1980s.
Margarita Hagin.
Maida was floored by the intricacy of Margarita's ceramic pieces. The craftsmanship is extraordinary. Both pieces are essentially self-portraits of the artist as microscopic diatomes. They reflect her love of water and nature, her hopes and fears for the future, as well as her loving relationship with her two daughters.
Darla Jackson.
Darla wrote, "I wanted to take the idea of the self-portrait literally, but also mirror it with my animal work. The figure is meant to be readying herself for larger battles to come in life. The bird, however, is facing the daily small battles, blindly getting through day after day. My thinking here is that we often prepare so well for the worst, yet we don't prepare as well for what happens to us on a day-to-day basis.
Robert Jackson.
Robert Jackson wrote, "In April 2019, I fell off a ladder, fracturing my back. This is the first painting I painted after the accident. Slight change in the fall and myself as a still life would have been even more true." Of course, life isn't all peaches and cream. I think a lot about life, well aware of its fragility and impermanence. And in my thinking, I know what I want it to be and try my best to push it towards hope. Sometimes putting on a happy face actually works.
John Karpinski.
John draws beautifully. He talks about how he began to make stuff as a kid and never stopped. He says if you're an artist, you have no choice in the matter. It's not an occupation, but an identity. And he writes, "The experiences that burn into our minds transmogrify into who knows what as we age. Our origins become questionable as narratives merge. Images flash and we question if they were memories or dreams or the recollection of fictions or the memories of others."
Alex Kanevsky.
I'm not sure which of these four revelers is Alex. My money's on the guy with the yellow shirt, but I could be wrong. Alex writes, "An artist attempts to create a visual language to speak of things that matter to him in the hope that people will understand what is being said, even if the language remains foreign to them. Understanding this language does not require any particular preparation. All that is needed is goodwill and quiet space."
Christine Lafuente.
As I looked at her still lifes, I couldn't quite see her in them. But she wrote, "I chose these two typewriter paintings because I'm a closet English major, and writing is one of my forms of expression." Christine, that's excellent use of metonymy, the substitution of an attribute of a thing for the thing itself. Just as a businessman can be labeled a suit, a literary artist can be called a typewriter.
Chelsea Luster.
Chelsea Luster's paintings directly relate to how people sometimes show themselves on social media. She wrote, "I created these two self-portraits during very difficult times in my life. I was inspired by a subcategory of selfie culture where people take photos of themselves crying or having emotional outbursts."
Kirk Maynard.
Kirk wrote, "My two works are part of my oil pastels periphery series about the marginalization of Black people in contemporary society. The presentations of the subjects wearing hoodies are commentary on negative connotations that ignore full Black humanity in the presence of stereotypes. The body language symbolizes an introspective look at existing and unwelcome spaces, where emotions can range from nervousness to resignation."
Lydia Panis.
Lydia writes, "Acting as self-portraits, my photographs happen through an intimate and revealing encounter between the models and myself. Layla and Miko depicts a tender relationship between mother and child. Their bond is one of affection, caring, and compassion, as Layla holds a bouquet of flowers that have started to drop off. The companion piece suggests similar themes. There is beauty and sadness in both images, a metaphor for life in all its complexity."
Hiro Sakaguchi.
Hiro was inspired by Peter Bruegel's Tower of Babel painting. Hiro said, "I'm a legal resident from outside this country and have adopted English as my second language. Finding my identity within this country, even after many years, has been a challenge." The painting depicts a father and daughter looking on as a Babel-like tower is built and destroyed. I have a small daughter and I worry for the future of this planet. The second drawing came directly from my head and in a way defines who I am as an individual and an artist. It is a landscape drawn as a portrait of myself.
Ron Tarver.
Ron Tarver, a very well-known photographer, wrote, "My two pieces were taken years apart. Night Tree was taken in the early 2000s at a time when I was obsessed with long exposure night photography. It was taken using a large format camera with an exposed time of 3 minutes on a very still night, and then processed using traditional and experimental darkroom techniques. The self-portrait was taken on my cell phone about 10 years later, after a family gathering in my backyard, with no intention of ever exhibiting it. Two very different processes yielded very similar results. I guess sometimes the universe just wants to make connections. Thank you for helping it along."
James Stewart.
James Stewart is a tremendously thoughtful artist who I've had the pleasure of making a couple movies about. For this show, he wrote, "I can see my aging has accelerated these past couple of years, and often when I see myself in a photo, I do not recognize who I'm looking at. I think that lack of recognition is the most unsettling. Sitting down and working on 5 or 6 self-portraits, then picking 2, was more interesting and maybe self-reflective than I expected. The results? Who knows?" Maida, what is a bonus edit?
A bonus edit is more fabulous art for you to look at that's not focused on self-portraiture, but these are pieces that are in the Gross McCleaf collection. I love these artists. They're in my personal collection, and I chose a few of their pieces that I adore and want other people to see.
I wanted to find out what my friend Maida has been up to for the past 50 years. So I Googled her, and what I found astonished me. After high school, Maida went on to study philosophy and graduated Phi Beta Kappa from the University of Pennsylvania. She then went to law school there, clerked for a judge, and rose to be Senior Vice President, General Counsel of DuPont Merck. She became an executive in various business ventures. She served as President and CEO of Pennsylvanians for Modern Courts. She was the Executive Director of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and she has served on numerous boards of worthy institutions. More importantly for us, she also led arts organizations in Philadelphia, like the Art Alliance, and she took over the leadership of the Creative Artists Network, now called the Center for Emerging Visual Artists. Maida, when did your passion for art begin?
I have loved art from the time I was a tiny little girl and convinced my parents to buy a painting for me that I saw in a department store. I looked at it my entire childhood. I've just always loved art. And then when I was in high school, my mother, the homemaker, decided to open an art gallery. That really whetted my appetite.
During COVID, you studied interior design at Moore College, and in 2022 started an art consulting business. How did that come about?
My teachers constantly said to me about my designs, "It's always about the art with you." And I thought, you know what? It is about the art with me. And so what am I going to do with this degree? I'm going to help people choose art and place it in their homes, in their offices, and curate exhibitions around the region. So that's what I'm doing.
The last time I saw you was 50 years ago, and I am still starstruck. Thank you for asking me to do this and reminding me that we knew each other so long ago.
Oh, what a pleasure. I'm so happy to be sitting here with you and glad that we're still going strong.
Thanks, Maida. You can still catch the exhibition that Maida has curated through June 24th, 2023.